if someone does like a wide variety, we may have another offering pretty soon. What do you think of the Novavax results, Scott?
The data looks good. It's consistent with what we saw from the UK trial, the interim analysis. I think the question is going to be whether or not FDA wants to look at a data set from the United States, a U.S. data set, or is willing to give an authorization based on that UK data set. But the data look good against both B117 and the old Wuhan variant. We need to see more data on 1351, but it looks like another strong entrant. And it's also differentiated, as you know. This is probably the first protein-based vaccine that could potentially reach the market.
The future of analysis and testing, we've been talking about challenge trials that Andrew's talking about to see, it sounds crazy, but you give someone a small dose of the virus and see differentially how the different vaccines work. I can imagine doing that. I could imagine doing start with one vaccine, do a different one for a booster. I could imagine that you'd want to look at T cell versus B cell, how long you get immunity based on the differing vaccines. Over the next 5 years, will we be conducting all of these trials to see how to best deal with this, which could be a long-term problem?
We may well be doing that. We do that for flu. So we do challenge studies for flu. We do it in other more benign illnesses. I think as we get better treatments available, like the monoclonal antibodies and perhaps some other drugs, doing challenge studies in a younger, healthier population may be something that we start to do more routinely as early exploratory studies to look at different vaccines. You wouldn't do this as a sort of primary efficacy study, but in terms of looking at different vaccine constructs, looking at relative antibody response, T-cell response, you might do a small exploratory study where you do a challenge study. Eventually, we're going to move to a paradigm probably where we can use proxies of immune response as a basis for regulatory approval, where we're not going to do these big outcome studies once we figure out what those proxies are. Right now, FDA is probably going to authorize the variant vaccines on the basis of just antibody response. And so we're already moving towards that paradigm. And that's, in fact, how we license flu vaccines each year.
So, Scott, you want to weigh in on the ongoing discussion and controversy about how we should be handling this? The president says maybe by July you might be able to have a small group with family members, and then there's others that say at the beginning of this it was flatten the curve for a little while. Journal Today lead editorial, lessons of the long COVID year. Lockdowns made the pandemic suffering far worse than necessary. And then on the other page, the lockdowns weren't worth it. So we're still dealing with that. I heard July, and it's like, wow, really? Not till July can you even think about hugging a relative? Is that really the most prudent way to do it? Do we have to take that much caution still?
Look, I think we're going to be getting together long before July. I think the majority of Americans are going to be getting together long before July. And I think we should be giving public health advice that is in line with where people are. And people are, when they feel the risk going down and people feel the risk declining because they've been vaccinated, because they see infection levels going down in many parts of the country, they're going to be willing to take more risk because they sense that their vulnerability is declining. And you know what? They're right. And so people are going to be out this summer. They're going to be out well before July. I think the other interesting thing the president noted is that he wants every state to open up eligibility for the vaccines on or before May 1st. I think that's consistent with what we've been saying, which is vaccine availability is going to be wide open in April. So I think most people are going to be able to get a shot at some point in April, go online, regardless of what category they're in or what comorbidities they might have. We do need to watch certain parts of the country. There are parts of the country where we see infection levels sort of leveling off, and they could have a small upsurge before we see continued declines, hopefully. New York's one of those places. 1526 is becoming more prevalent in New York. They need to step up their vaccinations and make sure that they don't have another surge in infection heading into the spring and the summer.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.